I wanted to be in the Navy, but my eyesight prevented me from becoming a naval cadet. When England came here, they took bath once a year. They just recovered from a thing called the lung plague, and they were dirty, they were smelly people, they wore dirty clothes, and it was ugly, and they were starving. So, and see what the Pakistanis did in Bangladesh. They killed their own fellow Muslims. They arrested Mujibur Rahman, and they did all that. So, what is it?
Hello, podcast lovers. We are back with another captivating episode of the CyberPeace podcast, focusing on military history. Join us as we welcome the esteemed Colonel Dr. DPK Pillay to share his insights and experiences. Welcome aboard, Dr. Colonel Pillay. We are looking forward to an engaging podcast today and hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Could be better.
Yeah. So without further delay, let's jump in and uncover some insightful experiences.
Sure.
Yeah.
All set.
Yeah, all set. So as a highly regarded academic and having served in the armed forces, could you please share about your life experiences?
I think one of the things that I've learned in my life so far is to take life as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very often it doesn't go as it is planned, but whatever happens in the end, it works out for the good. So I was the son of an army officer. We grew up in all distant lands of our country. We had different ambitions at different times of life. I wanted to be an engine driver once upon a time. I became a pilot and finally ended up in the army. Even in the NDA where I went, I wanted to be a naval cadet. Having read stories like Moby Dick. Have you read Moby Dick? It's a nice thing by Herman Melville. It's about a boy's adventures, whale hunting. I wanted to be in the Navy, but my eyesight prevented me from becoming a naval cadet. And so that's it. I ended up in the army. The NDA was a great turning point for a small boy from a small town. NDA was like an institute that symbolizes truly what it means to be an Indian, because it is built, it's a tri-service institution. It's built in a beautiful, majestic, over 8,000 acres of land, and the people from all parts and corners of the country come there. For the first time, you actually, meet what it means to be an Indian when you're about 16 years old. And then you realize so many things about yourself. Firstly, you may have some opinions about yourself being damn good in something, and suddenly you see somebody who's far better than you. And sometimes you might feel that, I wasn't really good. And then you realize, I'm much better than what I thought I was. So it's something that it gives you to explore your limits and understand what you are truly and what you're made of. And it also makes you part of a larger whole, in the sense you start identifying with something bigger than you. You're not just your individual self, like you're not that lovely son that you have at home or a brother. You are part of a larger squadron, NDA country, and those mottos of NDA, like service before self and the safety, honor, welfare of your country comes first, makes you feel proud that you belong, and there's so much of responsibility on our shoulders to work and serve for this country. So that's something that really amazes, and it pushes you to limits. Firstly, physical, emotional, because you are exposed to all kinds of pressures, which is necessary given the profession that we are. We're not missionaries of charity where everyone is talking about love. We are in the battle of business of war, where people are out to kill you. So it's obviously, it's a hostile world, and the training requires hostile methods. So the NDA trains you in those things. It pushes you to limits of decency, limits of, and also pushes you to understand what it means to be chivalrous and gentlemanly. It teaches that. So NDA pushes a lot of lessons in it: emotional, moral, physical. So it makes you a complete man. By the time you come out at the end of 3 years, you come into the Indian Military Academy, where you choose your arm. I chose the Brigade of Guards, which my father served in. And I'm very proud to belong to one of the finest regiments in the army, Guards, and that too particularly 4 Guards, which was first Rajput, and it's an amazing history, done very well in 71 war, had amazing officers whom we looked up to as role models. And then that is it, prepared you for a fantastic career. And then it taught you, like, one thing about being an officer from the Guards is you are prepared for life, in the sense you're not just for those missions. You learn about responsibility, about accountability. As an officer, you're taught a lot of things. where it is not just about nodding and taking salutes and giving salutes. Four Guards teaches you what it means to be a leader, and how to get work out of people, how to be accountable, how to actually deliver. Because this is a battalion that has never failed in its mission. If we have this history of 71 war being turned, it is because of the airlift of heli lift from across the Meghna and how Four Guards rushed there. In 47, 48, the defense of Jangar, the Naushera sector, was again Four Guards, which came in from Razmak straight away. It came from the Badlands and immediately got into action, got a Paramveer Chakra, Naik Yudhanath Singh. So it's a battalion full of action anywhere it is gone, and it prepares its officers for the best of leadership positions. And I think I was very lucky to have gone through NDA, through IMA, through the training that my father, an army officer, my grandfather, all of them being in the army, who taught me what it meant to be an officer and a gentleman. They had their friends, so their companions who were there, and I think it's a lovely journey, and I've enjoyed it all the way till my retirement.
Lately, you're also writing books. So,
yeah, after you get retired, you've got to reinvent yourself. Otherwise, you just fade away into the darkness. So I thought, it's not the end as yet. It may be curtains in one. The interval may have come because we have as much of time left now. We had a career of 30 years. I think post-retirement, we have about 30 years to live. And it should be made meaningful. And for being meaningful, you have to take up meaningful pursuits. And I found that there's a lot of after I got wounded, I was not promotable because of my injury. So I reinvented myself, did a PhD. I was selected for King's College in London, but I couldn't go because I joined the National Security Council, and then you couldn't really travel abroad. And I did it from Punjab University, and I've been, that kink in the head for research got into, and then I discovered some amazing facts which were not. The idea of research is to discover new facts. It's not to repeat the same thing.
Yes.
So you are discovering new things and working on histories which are not told. We grew up on a fair for whatever reason, which was told that we were a defeated country and all that. And I suddenly discovered we were never a defeated race. We were amazing. We reinvented, it's like a shrub that you cut it and it grows back again. So it's an amazing country. And every part of our country has amazing history. Every community, whether it's Kerala, Punjab, Kashmir, Assam, and it's a piece of resistance. It's an amazing story of tolerance. It's an amazing story of resilience in the sense from against all odds, from the jaws of defeat. We've actually, stories are there. The West has one thermoplay. They talk about the defense, when the Persians invaded. And we have a thermoplay in every single city, every single, community.
One of the oldest civilizations.
Yeah, it's an amazing, should be proud to be Indian.
Yes.
It's something which is really,
True.
So I do that part about writing history in addition to my work at the Institute of Defense Studies. It's interesting to talk, read, and meet people who are experts. So
that's great, sir. So moving on to the main part, so where we focus on the military history, to talk about, you see the Greeks, the Romans, Chinese, Egyptians, etc. Each crafted unique strategies that provided with crucial advantages. So the innovative work strategies not only shaped the empires but also laid the groundwork for modern military tactics. So how do historical military strategies from ancient civilizations inform current military doctrines and practices in modern armed forces?
There's no finish point on this race if you want to say that, okay, fine, they've improvised or whatever. Constantly the enemy is improvising, right? So Israel had one of the best air defense systems. They had their Patriot and Iron Dome and things like that, which are impregnable. But you see what happens. So enemy is constantly evolving. So there's a cultural genetic map that we carry, a memory that we carry, and that's what informs our decisions. And if you study the history of our country and you see the way we have behaved in battle, but a lot of it is influenced by our ancient cultural traits that we have. So when we talk about Prithviraj Chauhan not having killed Gauri, which Gauri did ultimately when he was defeated. So the fact is that there was a cultural story that goes behind. You go back thousands of years to Mahabharata, and to take on a defeated man or to take an unarmed person, like Abhimanyu was unarmed, dismounted from his chariot. He was not supposed to be. And the elders who killed him are held to account, are held to shame for what they did. Similarly, Ashwathama, who killed the children or attacked the women, the Uttara's womb and other things like that, are still considered as. So there's a inheritance of that kind of a cultural understanding that says that these are some things that cannot be done, and how we must behave. So you'll find that in our practices, even when we are negotiating or doing. So we have that Chanakyan theory of Sam, Dan, that divide,
Yes.
and the punishment that comes in the end. So divide, and so that's something that it's there today. But also, the first thing that we don't go is to invade, like what we saw now. Whether we have an inimical country, when a country goes hostile, Americans or others would probably just invade it and try to subdue them. But we have shown immense strategic patience, and we wear them out. I think it's very creditable. Whether it's Maldives that went hostile, wanting to evict every Indian from there, and Bangladesh, which is there, you will see that ultimately the race will be won by Indians.
Yes.
And you study that when the British came here, anyone who's come here, they've actually left with their tails behind there. They may have come with a lot of fanfare, or they came, with God. But finally, when the British left, they actually left with their tails between their legs. So the history is not taught to us, but they actually scampered away from here because of the 1946 ratings, the naval mutiny, and the INA sentiment there. So though there's one part of it that's not been told to us. If you see Wavell's note, which said that we can't handle a kind of an uprising of the scale that is there, because England was already depleted, completely. Hitler, how much ever he's hated in the West, I think we need to thank him for having, decimated the capacity, because just about 10 years earlier, they established one of the greatest empires. They thought they were going to rule over the whole world for 1,000 years. And they created New Delhi. And it's thanks to Hitler appearing on the scene that he completely decimated them. They were living on rations. Even Buckingham Palace was out on the streets, in the sense they were living off, some rations and everything. So they've come to absolute poverty, and India provided the bulk of the manpower. India provided this, and then the mutiny that happened here in Bombay, which is not talked about. Similarly, the INA. I'm very surprised that independent India didn't reinstate them and give them the honor that is due. Rather have so it's interesting that how we hit back. India hit back. It's an empire. So it absorbs, and then it strengthens itself by all the influences that comes in, and it's something that we have to learn. And we are a very resilient race, so we don't have to worry about people who say.
Yeah. So moving from the ancient civilizations to the medieval period, and when we talk about India, so in the medieval period, regional powers and alliances played a crucial role in shaping the military history of India. So various kingdoms and empires fought for supremacy over the decades, over the vast territories, leading to frequent conflicts and shifting alliances. Say, for instance, the Cholas, Pallavas, Hoysalas, etc., were prominent regional powers that exerted significant influence on the military landscape of India during this period. So, what role did regional powers and alliances play in shaping the military history of India during the period?
I think it's very important for us to actually study the history of India, because for whatever reason, when we were growing up, the history book talked only about the Mughal medieval India. When we talked only about the Mughal Empire or whatever. It's like almost like, and then you were told that the first time that the gunpowder appeared in India and altered the scene was in 1526 in the Battle of Panipat, which is not true now that I've read that. Because in 1498, when the Portuguese arrived here, they came with gunpowder, guns and cannons, and they altered the balance completely. So to say that 1526 was the advent of gun, this thing is wrong. And it's also a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of India's history. India has been, and then a lot of people say that, the British gave you an idea of India. Now, why would they name it as East India Company?
Yes.
Why would Columbus, who goes there and say, I found red Indians, So India existed. India had a very clear concept, and Shankaracharya, who went, thousands of years earlier, he went all the way up and down to the four corners of the country and established it. So you read the way, so India has been made of many different countries, and Ganga, the Himalayas have always held fascination. In the Chola, we have the Ganga Konde Chole, and we have the Chola Empire, which flourished, which is one of the greatest empires. They were, very good mariners in the sense they had a fantastic navy. They knew how to move cooperation. They had this cartels. And that invasion that took place in 1025, or even the marvels that they did when they were even creating marvels like Brihadishwara Temple or the Aniket, the dam that was created in
East Asia too.
And they transported that water thing. If you go to Cambodia, you'll find a crisscrossing of canals. These are technology. These are know-how had gone from Kerala, where they created, not from Tamil Nadu, when they diverted Kaveri. So, and even creating temples that have withstood thousands of years of onslaught to stay. And it's something that speaks amazingly about. Then there was also at the same time when the Mughals were coming in here, Cholas were around 10th, 11th century. Then you had many kings like the Vijayanagar Empire, which flourished, which is one of the greatest empires. You go to Hampi, you'll see it's a flourishing metropolis. And horses used to be the word horse trading comes from the fact that we needed horses coming in from Arabia, and they would sell horses to the bidders. And there were a lot of people, there were Russians here. It's interesting when you read that. There were Russians who were trading on horses, and there were thousands of horses brought here.
Any books you recommend, sir?
Yeah, I'll send you the list of those books. But there are many of them. It's about the Vijayanagar Empire. It's about the Goans who wanted to control the horse trade that took place. The Portuguese who controlled Goa. And there are many books which are available in our library. I'm going to give it to you. And but these are things that you must read to understand that how, for that matter, when the British arrived here, the Portuguese arrived here, the first landing was in Kerala. When Vasco da Gama came, you must know this bit of history that when Constantinople fell to the Byzantine Empire, collapsed to the Ottomans, they blocked all trade to India. They didn't allow overland trade to come here. And that's the reason why Europeans had to look for an alternative route to India, because India held great fascination. It's not for the pepper alone. It's for the cottons. It's for the silks. It's for India was the only place where diamonds and gold, precious metals used to be mined. It's only in the late 19th century that they found it in Africa. Otherwise, all these precious metals and everything. And you read Pliny the Elder, his accounts, or you read Herodotus, they all talk about India having a central place in the fineries that are there. We are an amazing country, produces the ultimate luxury. And see, from 47 till today, where we are, in 70 years, we've beaten 75 years, we are far ahead of the rest of the neighborhood, and we are in the top 5 economy. So it speaks volumes about this country. So when this Europeans came in here, the Portuguese were defeated by the Kochi, the kings of Kerala, and he went scooting to Goa, and he remained there till 1961. Then the Dutch tried invading and trying to set. Then Maharaja of Travancore, Marthanda Varma, he gave them a befitting defeat in 1741 in the Battle of Colonial, and they went scampering to Sri Lanka and to Indonesia. And similarly, the Marathas had taken power after Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was quite, a zealot in the sense he wanted to impose Islamic this thing, and he was very devoted to his cause. And that's how the Maratha Empire grew. Whenever you try to subdue the Indian race, it just contests them, and that's what happens. And Marathas grew up, and Marathas ruled as far as the south. So when you read about history that the British took over the mantle from the Mughals, is not true, because 1707 the Maratha Empire collapsed with the collapse of Aurangzeb. And 1757 was the Battle of Plassey in the Bengal. So Plassey Sirajuddaulah was a very wealthy thing, and it is not betrayal of Mir Jafar alone. It was gods also conspired against him, because there was a heavy monsoon that day, and his Subedar in charge of the guns, which was completely devastated in the rain, in the sense it got wet and the gunpowder couldn't fire. Otherwise, he had one of the best trained gunners in that this thing. So it's just bad luck, not Mir Jafar alone. And then it was the time of the British, that 1757, it heralded their arrival. And then the East India Company took over. But they had many wars. There was this Carnatic Wars, there was Mysore Wars, there were wars with the Marathas, there were the wars with the Sikh. So it took a long time. It was not like they just walked here and Indians put up their hands and said, okay, come rule us. It was not. It was a constant struggle, and it was like contested. It was contested till the very end. It was not like they had we all willingly accepted them and we all, it's not something. So this narrative that we were subdued and everything. It was not. When the Aurangzeb tried his imposition of jizya and whatever, there was a contest, and immediately the people, it was something. So to say that we are colonized, it's something that tells you, it's destroying your self-confidence to say, so kind of. I think this needs to be contested, to be understood in the correct perspective. See that, yeah, we have defeated European powers. The Kerala kings, Kochi and Kannur and Rajas have got together, defeated them. Travancore, Martanda has defeated them. Palasi Raja defeated the Duke of Wellesley, who actually later on defeated Napoleon in the wars, Kotut wars that are there. Palasi Raja, which is not their part of our thing. So it's not like they came in here and they took over. So these empires were all fantastic empires. They existed, they exerted great influence, they spread knowledge, they spread and they improvised on a lot of things. We heard of the Normandy invasion, and we talk about 600 ships that set sail for Normandy, but we don't talk about the invasion that was led by Rajendra Chola in this 1027. And when you went and spread, one coconut did not float from the coast of India and set up those magnificent temples in all those places like Cambodia, and you go to any of these places, you find them. I just returned from Bali, and it's an amazing place where you see the sculpture practiced till today. So it's interesting to understand that India has been an amazing country and will continue to be one. It's no power on earth can actually destroy what India stands for and what India will be in the future. So it's something that we need to be proud, and don't believe that narrative that we were defeated, we were colonized, and all that. Don't read.
I think in the books what we study in the school, that should be revised. And
I don't even know why they wrote those kind of books.
Aspects should be added.
When you work under a bad boss, what does he tell you? He keeps telling you, oh, you're bad, you're not good at your work, you're ugly, you're not good looking, your turnout is bad, your work is output. I think that is the kind of thing that the British who came here was an inferior boss. They never could understand. They were baffled by the wisdom, the astronomy, the ability to, our documentation, our revenue system, our thing was far ahead, was far superior. Our organization. Look at the Mahakumbh that's happening today. Look at the prediction that happened thousands of years ago that the Jupiter's orbit coincided. Yes. Now they were nomads. They when England came here, they took bath once a year. They just recovered from a thing called the lung plague, and they were dirty. They were smelly people. They wore dirty clothes, and it was ugly, and they were starving. So when we think about them, and we knew how to extract scents, perfumes, the shampoos and soaps and all those aromatics and the Ayurvedic oil and everything. It's something which is, we knew how to extract. The best steel in the world came in from here. Mathematics, astronomy. What greater significance than telling you that the Kumbh Mela takes place every 12 years, it coincides with the thing. Just last week on 25th, we had the alignment of all the planets and one thing. So if they could predict the monsoons, if they could. Vasco da Gama came to Melindi in Kenya, and he was brought to India by an Indian merchant who had a ship 4 times larger than him. Yeah. So what does it say when you read Pliny's records? When he complains about all the wealth going away to India, so then what does it mean? It's obviously there is something which is very fascinating about this thing. So history books, for whatever reason, was written by whichever party with whatever agenda. I really don't know why would they write that. So it's like a bad boss who tells you you're bad and you're bad. Then you have an inferiority complex, and then your performance goes down, and then you are willing to be subjugated by them. It's a psychological domination. You destroy your self-esteem, and then I can dominate you. And that is what exactly these people want to do. You must understand the game plan. When they do that, they tell them, they divide you. They say, oh, you're different from them. They found that when 1857 happened, everyone got together. Indians, Muslims, Sikhs. Sikhs were not part of the thing, but nonetheless, they were the thing. Everyone got together, and they were amazed that they would actually hoist Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was a king only in name, and he lived in the confines of the. And that baffled them, and then the INA mutiny and INA army, and then the naval mutiny, something which everyone, you saw all kinds of people. So that's something that they said, oh, we need to divide them. And this is an artificial construct that you have, Pakistan, Bangladesh. These are maps given by these white men. Yes. White men are not gods. The problems that you see in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, or wherever you see, these are lines drawn by the white men, and their era is over. I think we need to redefine them. The Durand line is going to be redrawn by the Afghans today. This was kept alive because of support from Pakistan, because they played in the Cold War. A guy called Rudyard Kipling wrote a book called The Great Game, and talked about some Russian influence. And they imagined all these, Britishers like to imagine themselves as great strategists and whatever. They said that we need to perpetrate this. So they carved out a piece of real estate which they had a great domination on. Pakistan was nothing but a supplicant state to the white men. They did, imagine the kind of thing that they've unleashed on. They supported the Mujahideen, and now they're fighting them. When the Americans came there, they forgot they were fellow Britton Muslims. They attacked them, killed them. So they were just a people for hire, a land for real estate for hire for them. These are people on hire. An army was entirely at the service of the Americans and the coalition. What did they do? They killed fellow Muslims, and they filled, so all this solidarity and all is a lot of hogwash. It's just that they are a mercenary country. They are available for the highest bidder. Tomorrow, if the Chinese bid and allow them some money, they're going to be loyal to them. You see what the Chinese are doing to the mosques in that country. And are they being loyal to them? So, and see what the Pakistanis did in Bangladesh. They killed their own fellow Muslims. They arrested Mujibur Rahman, and they did all that. So what is it? So this is like, these are people for hire, you must understand. And the Pakistani is up for sale. So if today Americans bid for them, they got them. The Chinese bid for them, they'll get them. They get their loyalty. They're very much so there. They don't have, and look at where these countries have ended up, where India is in, where we are today. We both started the race together, right? In 1947, 15th of August, where they are and where we are. So it very clearly shows the capacity and capability of those countries. And so this history needs to be rewritten, It's interesting that they named all their missiles after some Afghan, Gori, Ghazni. They're not from Pakistan. And now it's sad that they are going to be bombarded by the same missiles. It's interesting.
Okay, so talking about the British again, the British military presence in colonial India played a crucial role in maintaining control and maintenance and dominance over the vast and diverse subcontinent. The military presence also served to secure India's borders against external threats from rival European powers and local rulers. So, how did the British military presence in India evolve from the establishment of the East India Company to the end of colonial rule? And what are the implications for Indian military traditions?
It's a fallacy that the British India influenced in. And like I told you, we have great patience in this country. We have inherited that ability to take a lot of nonsense, and then when you strike, we decimate them. So the British created this influence is not. What they actually did, they modified the existing system. If you read Mahabharata, or you read those things, you read these manuals very clearly explain. Read the Arthashastra. There are 16 volumes. It's about, So the British haven't come. They just came here and took over and modified that, and they plagiarized all these things that are there. And firstly, the British have not made what the army is. It's like I told you, I explained to you about the Kerala, the Zamorans and the Marthanda Varma and all the stories and how they resisted them. Similarly, the Marathas were a very well-organized army. It's an army that has taken on similarly the Mughals or whichever. Tipu Sultan created the rockets,
Yes.
He's the man who created the rockets. And he decimated
with the help of the French.
The French.
Yeah, the French.
So, if you want to give credit, it's not to the white British, who was a very devious guy. One of the most devious people in the world is the British. He's wily and he's slimy, and he can't be trusted. In the sense, but the French have actually modified the Indian army in many ways. The influence in Kerala, when Delanoy was defeated, Delanoy was a French man. He was in the Dutch East India Company, and he was captured. He was the admiral of the fleet, and he served the Marthanda Varma. He created those things called the Travancore lines, Nedumkote lines that actually resisted Tipu Sultan's advance into Kerala. So there's the DCP concept. You have the Dich Kam Bandh. This is brought in by those guys, and they modernized the army. Similarly, Maharaja Ranjit Singh had 5 great generals who were there, Venturi, and many of them who actually modernized the army. And the Sikh army advanced as far as Afghanistan and subjugated. Similarly, Hyderabad and Remo, you have a place there, a dargah made for him there, Raymond. And you have the Sindhyas employ a large number of Frenchmen. So the French were very different from the British. The British were very snooty and they were very cruel. We don't talk about the black hole. Even during World War I, World War II, We don't talk about the massacre, millions who died in the Great Famine. People hail Winston Churchill as some kind of a hero. He was a demon. He actually prevented the rise that is there, the starvation that is here was caused by them. They forced Indian people to actually grow indigo and others and opium and others to do this. So we give undue credit to the British, and I really don't know how we are. We are probably the only country in the world that eulogizes them for having massacred us in the manner we were. The world has never seen a massacre of the nature that has happened in the partition. World has not seen the kind of famines they infested, the Deccan, the Puna, Satara, the famines that they've unleashed on us. So giving British credit for making India what it is, it's like, it's like giving credit to the devil for, creating an ability to the enemy that, okay, you made us strong because we had to prepare for you, right? Yeah, definitely they taught us how to prepare for this content. And they haven't really given anything great. It's the Indian soldiers who performed. We won the war for them. World War I, World War II wouldn't have been won but for Indian support. Indian soldiers are the ones who actually won the war. Thanks to Hitler, England's entire capacity, industrial capacity, the best of men and material was destroyed. They were bombarded in every way. This Indian material, they used to scoff at. They won't let Indians and dogs cannot enter. You've seen that in our lifetime in South Africa, how the white
still
man,
happens.
Yeah, so why are we giving credit to some, I don't know, people are all going gaga when Queen Elizabeth died and oh my God, and then we talk about when our customs are there, oh, we are secular, but when they go and, it's Prince Charles presides as thing, we don't feel bad about that. It's something that's very surprising that we need to understand that the British became what they are because of us, our wealth. The 1757 Battle of Plassey, the ransom that they took from here, made Britain rich. All the gold that went from here, ships loads of, and it is not one or two ships. It is an entire draining of the economy from here. Why are we giving credit to the British at all? I think we need to penalize them. Even today, have you seen when a random group called Sikhs for Justice or some Khalistanis are attacking our consulate, they don't even provide you protection to the mission. They attacked us. What are we talking about? There has to be reciprocity. They have to value us, what they have done. And then they talk, and then I remember that they said we'll make a public toilet in front of the ambassador, high commissioner's house. I don't even know why we are part of the Commonwealth actually. There's nothing common about the wealth. All the wealth is with them and we are the commoners there, because I really don't understand that this joke about Commonwealth and why we part of this Commonwealth. We should have thrown them just the way the other parties, whoever, we went through a non-violent struggle. We never gave them trouble. We provided them the best of men, material, weapons. Princely states provided a large amount of money to the British during the war, to World War II. And then we continue to the Queen and hail them. And please, you drained us, I think you need to give back all the things that they've given. So the amount of gold that is there, the amount of wealth, and then they sermonize. They talk about some aid that is given to us, and they say, some peanuts they give. I remember Pranab Mukherjee saying it's peanuts, which is true. They give you aid. I remember Margaret Thatcher gave you aid, and then they said, please buy Westland helicopters out of it, which is never flying. If you read that, so that aid came here and you bought Westland helicopters, which never flew. They bailed out that with their own aid. So it's a very cockeyed procedure that they have. So we really need to put them in that place and tell them, redraw the lines drawn by the British again. It's time to reset the map. And there's never been a point of history that, we have to accept something that has been done. People have redrawn their things. We need to question them. The Afghans are questioning the Durand line. We need to question these boundaries. These are artificial constructs. Like these problems that we have inherited are very much part of this colonial legacy. So we don't have to give credit to them for we got this army or mechanized. I'm sorry, we don't owe them any. It's the Indian soldiers who performed, Indian commanders, and World War I, World War II. The Battle of Haifa, World War II, the victories in Burma, in Africa, in Italy. These are all Indian soldiers who delivered, and it's in accounts of their own British officers. Viscount Slim says that he delivered twice as much as half the resources. This is amazing, and giving credit to them for being great, because they speak English and they do look very good on television doesn't mean that they are great people. They were not. They exploited, colonized, plundered us. And we need to put them in that place now, and they've actually fooled us for all these years. They've actually supported Pakistan all throughout in every single thing. Even when Bangladesh was happening, the genocide was taking place, did they stand by us? In fact, they were planning to move an entire fleet to protect the Pakistanis. The Americans moved a fleet towards this thing. So have they stood by you? So please question, look at those things and don't give credit to them for where none is due. They've taken your money. Our money funded our own army. They charged us for our army. Do you know that? The British Army, we continue to pay pensions to them. We maintain their Commonwealth graves. Why are we? This is their war. The British fought their war. It is not our war. We had nothing against the World War I powers. We had no enemy. But our soldiers, when they promised greater autonomy, but what did happen after the war? We were just left it high and dry. And they made a beautiful empire here. We paid for that thing. We paid for the entire army. We paid pensions. We paid for the graves. We paid for everything. We continue to pay. It's ridiculous. It's something which baffles me that how we eulogize the British contribution. It's nothing. They're all bullshit.
I think it's about the public perception and individual opinion.
I want to tell you, there's some of the slimiest people. I met a diplomat recently and he was talking about, one man, a Khalistan, hardly. They are the ones who are funding these separatist things. Why are they allowing people like Niger who went in as a plumber? If you look at it, he was rejected. And, you have these kind of, would they accept a person coming here and inside? They don't take a guy called the Wikipedia fellow for his leaks. They have made him an outcast, no? He's not killed anyone. Did he kill anyone? Whereas the Khalistanis have actually bombed an Air India plane which was blown off. That's very clearly a criminal international. But has Wikipedia, Julian Assange or anyone done anything which is criminal, which has killed people? But for their national security, they can declare them, right? So I think it's time we actually call the bluff and let them know, show them the mirror. It's important our country takes a stand and our leaders also don't get overawed by them and show them the mirror. It's important because it's an Asian century. It's time that the Asians woke up and understood that we had enough of this. It's 1500s when the world balance changed. The arrival of Europeans altered this entire equilibrium in the world. They came and unleashed unlimited violence everywhere, whether it be in Goa, Kerala. There's a thing called the Vedi Veribad because of the fear that inflicted because the gunpowder is coming. They go to the temples. It was the wrath of the gods. And they altered the thing. You see Philippines, they changed the entire thing. Whereas there was a very peaceful balance that existed, an Asian way of life. It was altered by the arrival of the white men. So don't give credit to the white men for anything. In the sense, I think it's important, treat them for what they are. They're fair, they've improved. But to say that they've given us the army and it may not be very appropriate or correct interpretation.
So, as we discussed about the Western technology, and how did the introduction of Western military technology and strategies during the colonial period alter traditional Indian warfare practices?
Any technology, not just Western technology, you can't credit them because gunpowder emanated from China. So it's not Western technology. And metallurgy, much of it was from India. All the extraction of zinc and everything, if you read the history, you would know that. So it's that they introduced a different level of violence into it. There was chivalry earlier, like I told you, the rules of Mahabharata, where you couldn't really, and a charioteer had to fight a charioteer, horseman had to be, fighting a cavalier. It wasn't really, you couldn't really, but these people brought a different level of violence. They unleashed and they really didn't have any, and Portuguese tales, if you read, they would cut people's ears and they sunk a whole shipload of people, men, women and children who were going for Hajj. The Cabral, that guy called the Portuguese thing, they would sing them. There was nothing pious to them. Religious processions, women, children, temples, mosques, everything. So I don't think Western technology is to be given undue credit. Technology didn't emanate from them. They used it to effect. They used that to effect. We discovered the atom bomb and they used it not once, twice. They already knew, by the way, Japan is on the throes of losing the war, but they didn't have to. But they used it not once, twice. So let's not give them, to credit. They have not altered. They knew how to use it to meet their objectives. And they unleashed a great level of violence on us. And while they brought order, European order and discipline that comes from that thing, that was quickly imbibed by us. And there were armies, like I told you, Ranjit Singh employed Europeans, Frenchmen in their ranks. Travancore employed the Frenchmen, the Hyderabad, the Sindhyas. They had them and they had their own Marathas employed them. So it was something that is They brought this. There used to exist a free trade between the seas, China, Middle East, and Arab trade. They used to come. So when the Portuguese came here, they introduced the Catras system, where the Catras, you had to pay a tax for them to use the seas, the Catras. So it's something that they brought. So they talk about freedom of seas today and navigation and everything. The first people who brought that system of taxation in the seas was the Europeans. So they brought a new, whereas military power existed, technology. Today AI has come into the battlefield, right?
Yes.
Can you credit them? The Chinese are capable of recognizing. They have, amazing technology, facial recognition. They have, that deep seek that is there, which has baffled, led a bloodbath in the stock market, destroyed the entire thing. So can you credit this thing? So it's something that is, Asians are capable. We are also coming up with our own things, and it's the presence of Indian who actually altered a lot of the software market in the world. And so it's something that you can't really say that, the white man is like gets the word of God and they unleash new technology or something like that. It's not. We've improvised on them. We performed for them. They had the same technology, same thing available for African subcontinent. Could they do the same with them? No. So they had it for other parts. So so you must understand, it's the men behind the machine that matter. And we've improvised. Like I told you, Tipu Sultan came up with a rocket.
Even the atom bomb, and the atom bomb, when you watch Oppenheimer movie.
Yeah, the first quote he says of Bhagavad Gita. So there's a lot of influence in that. So
there's always an Indian link.
No, there is a lot of wisdom which we have unexplored. We are not explored. We are just, we have inherited some kind of a Western education. I feel bad that I have not invested in that. And I'm trying to read, and I've realized that, if very meditative practices, there are intuitions that you develop. When you look at how Darwin's theory is interpolated into our avatars of Vishnu, you realize that life started at water. And just to explain to human beings that, and they take one Brahma day, and this, if you see, they talk about the earth going to sleep, and the ice ages is nothing but that. We have this, ice ages come in and go. And we talk about the great flood. There's a common myth, like story which has all in Abrahamic religions as well. And they talk about the Matsya avatar that took them away. But there's something very wise, and we have not even explored 1/10 of it. We've changed our education system, our mathematics and everything to, if you see Ramanujam, he learned in a very traditional way. You see some of those people like Bose and all, they didn't study in these schools that we today have in our country. They studied in traditional. They discovered the Boson particle, or and Ramanujam's notebooks, which is like public property today. And so it's interesting that we must give credit to them for the violence that they have done. They've brought, violence of an unprecedented scale. That's it that they're capable of. They can subjugate you by violence. And that they inflict. You've seen it in Iraq, you've seen it in Afghanistan, you've seen it in World War II. So that is a different scale. But as far as sharing technology or bringing modernization, I don't think we should give them credit. They haven't shared with us. When we became independent, they never gave us the hardware that we needed. The French gave us the Orangan aircraft. The British never gave us. We were part of the Commonwealth. And the Americans never gave us those Phantoms, or we had those outdated Nats, and so we fought with Mystiers and other planes which are not part of the view. So let's not. So it's something, but we used it to better effect, right? We defeated them. Yes. We defeated Patton's through RCL guns. We defeated. So whatever things, so to say that they gave us technology and they introduced, we know how to use technology.
Of course,
we've done that. We've a guy from a village. I was just reading the story of Oyo. He's got the world's largest hotel rooms in the world. Oyo has. So it's interesting how somebody knows how to use technology. It's interesting, right? A boy from a small little town does it. It's interesting. So we know how to use it.
Also, you find these, what do you say, this ancient sculptures, in temples, where they depict the,
stars, constellations,
technology.
Even the growth of the womb, from fetus to the child, and the kind of depiction is amazing. It's scientifically engraved. The constellations are engraved. The things are
mostly down south.
Yeah,
you find.
No, it was here. It was destroyed here.
Yeah,
completely destroyed.
Yeah,
the first temples in Delhi came up after independence. So it was completely. That's a different
Yes.
thing, yeah.
So, moving to non-state actors. So, what role did non-state actors such as mercenaries and insurgents play in shaping modern military conflicts? And how does these challenge traditional notions of warfare?
Non-state actors and guerrilla warfare
Yeah.
and others have existed all throughout time history. So whether you read the Romans or you read, even in India when these invaders would come in, people in Haryana would allow them to come in, the Jats and everyone. And when they were going back, they would actually plunder them. So you would actually see them as guerrillas. Shivaji started off as a guerrilla fighter, He was a resistance movement against the thing and the empire was grown. So if you want to look at a particular point of time, yeah, we might say Palasi Raja was a resistance to the organized company army led by Duke of Wellesley. So this exists, so it constantly evolves, So the presence of Al Qaeda or ISIS has modified the tactics for the present, So then they came up with drones capable of delivering, when you unleashed aircraft, or when you see the Vietcong fighting the Americans. So there's no point in warfare that this is the finish line and now we can't improve any further. We get better and better. People have tactics. Humans are at conflict with each other. Whether you go back 100,000, 2,000 years to the Romans fighting the Gauls or fighting those people, or in India, the arrival of anyone, you find resistance has been there. These are always called non-state actors. This is not, so it's interesting to understand that there's no finish point here. People are evolving, tactics evolve, weapons in their hands evolve. But the thing is about contest between two paths, contest, legitimacy that they contest for. And so sometimes they win. The Mujahideen won against the Soviet Union, but the Americans lost to the Taliban, and so it goes on, in the sense they actually lost to Taliban. They ran away from the way Biden pulled out from Kabul is so it's interesting to see. And now they handed over power back to the same people.
That's why they say that Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires.
It's again a fallacy because Ranjit Singh ruled over it. Indians have had empires which extended till there. So this graveyard of empires is when you read a book from the last two chapters. Graveyard of European empires, European ambitions. It's not a graveyard for Asian ambitions. So please don't read the whole book. Go back to 2,000 years and understand where they come from. So don't just read the last two chapters of the book. So go back to the history of Afghanistan and see that. And then they say that, even Ranjit Singh ruled large parts of it, defeated them and subjugated them. So it's a fallacy to believe that. But then the thing is, I'm saying non-state actors evolve, tactics evolve constantly. Means and methods of warfare. The character of war keeps changing from horse-driven to, from bows and arrows today. Even aircrafts and buses and cars are used as weapons in arsenal. Today, we have unarmed weapons. Today, you have capable lethal autonomous weapon systems coming in. You have AI generated. So people sitting far away, they can be probably earmarking us and tracking everything that we are saying through our mobile phones, and and we had the pagers exploding.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing. So you're going to give it to them. The pagers explode. What next? Is this cup of coffee going to explode? You never know. So it's warfare evolves. So don't give a finish point.
So going back to World War I and II, Indian soldiers made a major impact, in terms of their contributions. So in what ways did the military contributions of the Indian soldiers in these two wars influence post-colonial military policies and national identity in India?
They betrayed us in World War I and World War II also. Had the naval rating mutiny not taken place, we wouldn't have had the independence so fast. And the partition was hastily drawn. It is a act of vengeance. That they could have, if they were leaving, they should have just gone. And they said, okay, you sort out amongst yourself, right? That's what they would have done, right?
Yes.
Okay, listen, you have a problem, we are leaving. But they drew a line and they said, okay, and then they watched with glee. You understand?
Yes.
If they wanted to, they had no responsibility. You didn't get it from your God that okay, here's India and please sort it out. It is not God ordained. So they've betrayed every step of the way. They have betrayed. They've gone back on their promises. Whether you see the treaty in America when they did with the Red Indian tribes. They moved them to settlements and then they set their silver there, so they again moved them away. You read that history. And here also, it's a constant tale of betrayal, going back on promises and everything. That they didn't have to do this partition at all. They should have said, okay, you guys sort it out. We're leaving on so and so date. That is a gentlemanly thing. They created a partition. Radcliffe, a guy who never seen India, he didn't even know how to spell. He came here through a line, and then they didn't declassify it till after the independence, and then they unleashed mayhem. And they wanted to watch with glee, Honestly, they watched with glee, and it's time karma hits them back for whatever they did to this empire. So don't give too undue credit to this colonial past. They only extracted us, and let them, I think it's time to hold them accountable for whatever they've done. And I think we need to really put them in their place and tell them and show them the mirror when they preach to us about what they've done, And you find different sets of rules applied to their own geopolitical requirements and different set when we have the same problem. So their terrorists are terrorists. Our terrorists are, something else, and they need to be protected in their own country. And it's interesting. Even though they might even bomb up planes and carry out assassinations, it really doesn't matter to them. So it's interesting. So I don't think we need to give them too much of credit. This time we showed them what they belong and made them pay for what they are.
So moving forward to the 1971 Indo-Pak War, which is still a talked about topic, and this war had a profound impact on the political landscape of India, as it resulted in the creation of Bangladesh and cemented India's position as a regional power. So the decisive victory over Pakistan boosted the popularity of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and solidified her position within the Indian political arena. So can you analyze the impact of the war, the 1971 war, on the political landscape of the country and its military history?
I'm not qualified to speak on the political landscape, but I definitely know she won the election with her or something. But next time she had to declare an emergency. So that I know we are all part of that. But the thing is about India did go against all odds. The Kissinger made a lightning visit. For the first time, he made a visit to China, to Peking, from Pakistan. And he asked them to, invade India if there was a thing. And luckily we chose the winter months when the passes in the Himalayas were frozen. And they couldn't have probably come. And the Americans tried to move the 7th Fleet to protect a genocidal regime. And the British supported them, I already said that. So I definitely know it required a lot of guts to go against that. And so as far as the impact on the geopolitics, I don't think we really made full use of this victory, because we gave them all away at Simla. In Simla Accord of 1972, we just, without even asking for our prisoners back, without even asking for the enclaves that existed there, without negotiating for Chittagong, which was part of Indian, because they were Buddhists. And I just don't know why we would do that. So probably what we lacked was the foresight, was an all-of-government approach to understand what was important. Repeatedly giving away Haji Pir Pass, which in Tashkent, which was captured, which is so important. And so I just don't understand whether really capitalized on that war. It was a great victory nonetheless, but has that resulted in peace? No, because Bhutto launched a war by other means. He unleashed the Kashmir Khalistan movement and all the other things, and which has bled India all this while. So have we really capitalized on that? Did we sort out our boundary issues? Did we reset those artificial boundaries that was created? Because today more Bangladeshis, probably there'll be a time when there'll be more Bangladeshis in India than in Bangladesh. So if that is the situation, then they might as well be part of the thing and have this false boundaries away, allow access to the sports. Because before independence, the northeastern territories had a greater per capita income because of access to Chittagong and other places. So these are things that we need to really look into it and understand from a long-term vision. So don't look at 71 war in isolation. Look at something that's constantly in motion. We can't sit on one victory and gloat over it and say that, oh wow, it's a great victory. But that's history. That's over. That's like as irrelevant as the battle of Raja Chola. It's because things have moved, changed. Geopolitics has changed. England is no more the power that it was. which created this. So it's time that we need to, we see what's happening there.
And when the
Things are-
warfare is changing.
Yeah. The empires are fallen, empires are gone, the time is over. The new empires come up on the horizon, new powers come up. So it's time to keep moving ahead and looking ahead and planning what is there now. We should understand where do we see ourselves in 2047 and what does it involve, what will it mean, what is it? And there are nothing, it's not like the 10 commandments that Moses got that you cannot change it now, It's not the word of God that is now engraved on stone. So there are things, the boundaries have shifted, people have migrated, people have moved, boundaries, lines have changed. So it will change in the future, America was in 1776 such a tiny, small thing. Today, see where they are now. He's talking of Greenland also, it's going to go there. He's talking of Panama Canal. So you never know, it might be true. So, isn't it? So, England was once upon a time the whole of the world. The sun never set on the British Empire. Today it's a tiny country, and their people are so afraid that you had very clear evidence of their white women, children being, grooming gangs. They don't have the moral courage to punish them. What happened to the great British, courage and this thing? They don't have the courage to get them to justice for committing crimes which are clearly against their own children, They don't have the moral courage to stand up to that. What kind of a race is that? So it's obviously that end is there, that thing is really over, because they don't have the ability to enforce justice in their own lands. Where will they do that in other places? So.
And also it's time to move away from the past. And,
Absolutely. We should not live in the past glory. I think we need to look at far ahead, prepare our country, the youth of this country, stop all these divisions on the name of religion, region, caste and things like that. These are things that they are perpetrating on us. We are playing to the gallery to something. We need to understand that India has to see ahead. Our generation has not lived through this humiliation of being colonized and everything. And our generation should not have to live through that again because we allow some superior man with a devious bent of mind to come in. They manipulated our previous generations into subjugation. We shouldn't be manipulated to subjugations. They played one king against the other. So that's something that is there.
Yeah. So, moving to the contemporary military leaders and their perceptions. So, what lessons can contemporary military leaders learn from past conflicts?
Military leaders have to learn from the past conflict, but actually they should anticipate future conflicts more importantly.
Particularly regarding the importance of intelligence and adaptability in warfare.
Exactly. So they have to think beyond the normal. It's not about reading. If you look at the past and prepare for a warfare, it's like trying to drive the car by looking into the rearview mirror. You've got to look into the future. You've got to anticipate. Do you anticipate what's going to happen in October 7th? It's not. And now they anticipate what will happen in the present. So I think it's about understanding what lies ahead, moving ahead and looking at the technology, how it is going to change. How do you prepare for cutting edge technology? How do you adopt that technology available from the sensor to the shooter in one grid, and preparing soldiers for that. So recruit soldiers who are capable of fighting cutting edge warfare, like technology warfare. Today warfare is not about swords and marksmen and everything. A man sitting 5,000 kilometers away reads a map from the thing, a feed comes in from there, and he decides the attack. So it's not brawn anymore, it's not muscular mass, it's brains, how he interprets. Is this the vehicle that left that place? He has to be able to calculate and press the thing so that the UAV or the drone waiting there can attack it, or the satellite can engage it. So it's something that requires a very different. So an ability to harness technology to winning the future wars is more important than looking back and studying past wars. Well, past wars is an example into the mindset of your opponent. How we reacted to those wars, how they created those wars is a predictability of how they're going to react. So if Hamas behaved in a particular way, or if Pakistan behaves in a particular way, we have a mindset that we have created. But how to tackle it and how to harness technology is what we need to work out on.
Touching upon some soft power aspects, how has the representation of military history in popular culture influenced public perception and understanding of historical events?
Yeah, military history in popular culture has created a myth of the infallibility of the American Rambo, and as you see that we think that the Americans won the World War II. It's the Russians who won the World War II for you. Who captured Berlin? Why did Hitler commit suicide? But it created a thing about the American supremacy, right?
Yeah.
When they went to that Normandy landing was not moving ahead. The Arnhem battle was not moving ahead. The Vietnam War they lost, but they created a myth of some kind of a larger than life, John Rambo. They went with the tails between their legs. But you have an image of Sylvester Stallone coming with all this gunship and rescuing people in Vietnam and everything. So it does influence a large number of matches. We should prevent ourselves from getting carried away by those kind of. We should know our own strength, and I think that's where training like the NDA does, is where we are pushed to our limits to understand our own physical ability, and that's where the difference comes between the soldier who's faced battle, who's lived through battle, and the people who sit on armchair strategies. They understand. We know the limits that we can go to. We've smelled the blood, the stench of the sweat and blood and mud, the gunpowder. That smell has been smelled by us. We know the effects of war. And whereas the people who sit in these comfortable air-conditioned rooms and who think that, it's like a game or a video game, who grew up playing video games, which is the new generation. So there's a lot of difference between that. So don't get carried away by culture, by pop and by video games and everything to be denuded into believing that you're going to be willing to win all these things. It's not. That's what happened to American kids who are actually running the shots in these places. That's why they have very low thresholds. One Black Hawk was down and they ran away from Somalia. One thing happened in America and they banned, just the way the Chinook took off from Vietnam. You see that picture? The same way it took off from Kabul, the same Chinooks were there. Remember the scene, it looks very much similar. So they haven't learned their lesson.
I think many things are exaggerated as well.
Absolutely. And I think when you have a business of war is very serious, so these people create a war is too serious a business to be left to the generals. It's a stupid thing because they never ask the generals what happened, what do you want? Do you need Hajipir Pass or what do you do about your prisoners? In 72 when we negotiated, why were no generals included in that? So it's a question that we must understand. Don't get carried away by all this pop culture and movies and everything. Ask the experts who've been in war and they'll realize that war should be the last resort, And I think that's important, and that's why the Europeans who've done that in Syria or Iraq, they haven't seen what they've done in Iraq is unfair. Iraq had a particular type of governance. Paul Bremer comes and disbands the party, they grow into ISIS, and they control the fire? No, they haven't. They've destroyed the country. They destroyed the entire thing. So that's something that they need to. So have we done?
So coming to the last part of the podcast. So cybersecurity has become a critical concept in today's globalized world, and the cyber threats continue to evolve and pose serious risks to individuals, organizations, and nations alike. So keeping this in mind, what message would you like to give to CyberPeace?
See, I'm not a cyber expert, but I would like to know that. But definitely I know that how internet and how cyber capabilities have changed the world. And it's a constantly evolving, world. The frontiers are expanding, capabilities. What we were capable of doing 20 years ago has increased manifold by having information technology, cyber, and all those kind of things that are there. So we need to constantly re-evolve and redevelop our skills to constantly be prepared for future threats and be prepared. I think that's very important for us to reskill ourselves and not get stuck in past means and methods and history and glories. I think look ahead, move ahead, understand what, anticipate and prepare for future challenges. Very important.
Thank you, Colonel Dr. Pillay. It was incredible discussing about various, things about the military history. And it was a pleasure having you on the CyberPeace podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into our show. If you enjoy the content and found it valuable, please like and share the video to help us spread the word. We can't wait to see you next week for another exciting episode. Until then, this is Dr. Preeti signing off. Your support means the world. Thank you.